Sumilid at sumabog ang isang fuel truck sa Brazil.
Nakaligtas kaya ang driver ng truck sa pagsabog? Naku, alamin po natin yan mamaya mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Lunes.
Barko ng Philippine Coast Guard, hinarang ng China Coast Guard vessel sa Zambales.
Senate President Francis Escudero nanindigan na hindi dapat makialam ang ibang bansa sa pagpapalakas ng militar ng Pilipinas.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at Pangulong Donald Trump nakatakdang magpulong.
Mga protesta laban kay President Donald Trump umalingaw-ngaw sa US at Europa.
At para troopers sumabit sa bubong ng isang stadium sa France. Muli nagsagawa ng panghaharas ang barko ng China Coast Guard laban sa Philippine Coast Guard vessel sa baybaying malapit sa Zambales itong linggo lamang.
Ayon kay PCG spokesperson Commodore J. Tariela, nagsagawa ng dangerous maneuver ang CCG 3302 kung saan hinarang at nilapitan nitong BRP Cabra. Muntikan din itong banggain ang barko ng Pilipinas sa kabila ng radio challenge mula sa PCG. Iginit ng PCG na iligal ang pagpapatrolya ng Chinese vessel sa naturang karagatan. Dagdag pa ni Tariela, nakaiwas naman ang BRP Cabra at napigilan ang posibleng banggaan sa pamamagitan ng kanilang kasanayan sa paglalayag ng mga crew nito. Naitaboy ang Chinese vessel sa estimated 92 to 96 nautical miles mula sa baybayin ng Capones Island.
Kinumpirma po ni Philippine Ambassador to the United States, Jose Manuel Romualdez, na maaaring ipadala ng Washington ang bagong F-16 fighter jet sa susunod na taon, kasunod ang pag-aproba ng US State Department sa $6.58 billion sale nito. Dagdag pa ng Philippine Envoy, kasama ng inaprobahang offer ang isang financial package. Nilinaw ni Romualdez na ang financial package ay hindi pa natatalakay ng Estados Unidos at ng mga pamunuan ng Department of National Defense and Armed Forces of the Philippines. Sa kasalukuyan, mayroong 11 South Korean-built light combat aircraft ang Philippine Air Force.
Iginit ni Senate President Francis Cheese Escudero na walang bansa ang dapat na makialam sa pagpapalakas ng militar ng bansa. Itong sagot ni Escudero sa sinasabi ng China na isinasa peligro ng Pilipinas ang regional stability mula sa military modernization program nito. Kaugnay pa rin ito sa inaprubahan na $5.58 billion sale ng Estados Unidos sa F-16 fighter jet sa Pilipinas. Ayon kay Senador Escudero, tama na palakasin ang sandatahang lakas ng Pilipinas para mabigyan ito ng deterrence. Anya, pang-depensa ang mga ina-acquire na assets para sa arsenal ng bansa at hindi ito pang-opensa. Higit sa F-16 jets, may offer din ng Sweden na Saab Gripen multi-role fighter para sa Philippine Air Force o PAF.
Nagsimula na ang Cope Thunder Exercise 2025 sa pagitan ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos ngayong Lunes, April 7. Ayon sa Philippine Air Force o PAF, ang nasabing bilateral exercise na isinagawa sa Clark Air Base, Pampanga ay sponsored ng US Pacific Air Forces o PACAF. Kalahok sa pagsasanay ang 729 na tauhan ng PAF. Gagamitin nila ang 4 na FA-50 PHS, 3 A-29B Super Tucano, isang S-76A at isang SUV. Nasa 250 tauhan naman ng PACAF ang nasasama sa nasabing military drills. Gagamit po sila ng 12 F-16 fighter jets. Magpo-focus ang Cope Thunder drills sa field training exercises upang i-develop ang asymmetric warfare capabilities para sa force projection and area denial, pagpapahusay pa ng conventional capabilities at operational coordination kasama ang international and security partners at pagpapataas pa ng operational readiness. Bukod sa Clark Air Base ay magsasanay din ang puwersa ng US at Pilipinas sa Basa Air Base sa Florida Blanca sa Pampanga at maging sa Colonel Ernesto Ravina Air Base sa Capas, Tarlac.
This year's exercise focusing on enhancing combat readiness and elevating joint mission effectiveness with clear objectives. That is to train hard, think forward, and operate as one.
The lessons learned here will help shape our future operations and enhance our ability to respond to any crisis, natural disaster, or security challenges that may arise.
Masasabing espesyal ang Cope Thunder exercises ngayong taon dahil sa kauna-unahang pagkakataon ay makikibahagi rin ang Air Forces ng Malaysia, Thailand, Australia, Japan at maging ang Indonesia sa pamamagitan ng International Observer Program. Sinabi ng PAF na magtatagal ang kanilang pagsasanay kasama ang puwersa ng Estados Unidos sa loob ng 2 linggo o hanggang sa April 18.
Ayon kay Trade Secretary Cristina Roque, kinukonsidera ng Pilipinas na magbaba ng taripa para sa mga produktong manggagaling sa Estados Unidos. Matatandaang nakasama sa listahan ng Liberation Day ni US President Donald Trump ang Pilipinas kung saan nasa poll ng 17% tariff ang mga kalakal ng Pilipinas na darating sa Estados Unidos simula sa Abril 9. Ang 17% tariff ni Trump ay discounted reciprocal tariff daw dahil ang Pilipinas ay nagpapataw ng 43% na taripa sa mga produkto ng Estados Unidos. Sinabi ni Roque na makikipagkita siya sa mga economic managers ng bansa upang pag-usapan ang gagawing tariff reduction. Makikipagkita rin anya siya sa ilang opisyal ng Estados Unidos patungkol sa nasabing issue. Nais din anya ng Pilipinas na lumahok sa planong collective response ng Association of Southeast Asian Nations o ASEAN sa taripa ng US. Samantala, inamin ni Roque na wala pang konkretong tugon ng Administrasyong Marcos Jr. tungkol sa nasabing issue, pero patuloy naman anya ang pag-uusap para sa Trump tariffs. Dati nang nanawagan si Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim sa ASEAN na magkaisa laban sa malawakang taripa ni Trump. Ito ay dahil ayon sa ilang mga ekonomista, may mga bansa sa ASEAN na tiyak na maaapektuhan ang dagdag taripa ng Estados Unidos.
Good news naman po para sa mga motorista dahil sa halip na dagdag presyo na unang inanunsyo ng Department of Energy ay asahan po natin ang rollback sa presyo ng mga produktong petrolyo bukas April 8, 2025. Sa advisory ng oil companies, babawasan nila ng 10 sentimos ang presyo ng kada litro ng gasolina habang 50 sentimos naman ang rollback sa kerosene o gas. Wala naman po magiging paggalaw sa presyo ng diesel.
Susunod, China umalma sa spying cases sa Pilipinas.
Taiwan nagsimula na ng counter drills.
At protesta laban kay Trump umalingaw-ngaw. Detalye ng mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng mata ng Agila International.
Each individual has their own goal. Every shot we make takes us to a whole new distance. And where the grass is green, something will definitely begin. This is the third NET25 Golf Cup, April 14, 2025 at the Alabang Country Club.
Magsasagawa rin ng military drill ang Taiwan bilang kasagutan sa naunang military drill na isinagawa ng China sa naturang estado. Maaalala nitong Abril 1 ay sinimula ng People's Liberation Army o PLA ang mga panibagong drill sa naturang isla na kinapapalooban ng live fire exercise sa karagatang sakop nito. Ayon naman sa pamahalaan ng Taiwan, magsasagawa ang iba't ibang command nito ng simulated military operations kung saan ang sentro nito ay laban sa puwersa ng Chinese People's Liberation Army. Ang military simulation ay gagawin upang masuri ang iba't ibang kapasidad katulad ng maiikling engkwentro hanggang high-intensity extended conflict. Ang naturang drill ay inaasahang susubok sa abilidad ng mga Taiwanese commanders na gamitin ang kanilang mga military assets sa iba't ibang operasyon. Inaasahang gagamitin sa naturang drill ang ilang mga military assets na binili ng Taiwan mula sa US katulad ng mga battle tanks, artillery rocket systems, guided missile at iba pa. Patuloy na mga ginigiit ng China na lehitimo at legal ang ginagawa nilang military mobilization dahil ipinapakita nito ang pagtutol ng Chinese Communist Party sa kasarinlan ng Taiwan.
台独与台海和平水火不容，搞台独只会让台湾兵凶战危，陷台湾同胞于水深火热。不管谁打台湾牌干涉中国内政，都是祸乱地区殃及自身的不明智之举，最终成其难以承受之重。事实一再证明，台独分裂势力和赖清德当局是当前台海局势的最大挑战，是不折不扣的危机制造者、麻烦制造者。正告赖清德当局，玩火者必自焚，闹得越凶，灭亡得越快。有些国家若真想台海和平稳定，就必须恪守一个中国原则，停止向台独分裂势力传递错误信号。解放军持续加强练兵备战，不断提升反分裂、反干涉实战能力，坚决粉碎一切台独分裂行径，坚定推进祖国统一进程。
Rumesbak ang China gamit ang buwelta nito ng taripa laban sa Estados Unidos. Ito ay matapos i-anunsyo ni US President Donald Trump at tinatawag nitong reciprocal tariffs sa halos lahat ng mga bansang nagpapasok ng mga produkto sa Amerika. Narito pa report ni NET25 correspondent Anjay de Guzman.
Matindi ang buwelta ng China laban sa taripa ng US noong Biyernes gamit ang sarili nitong countermeasures. Ayon sa Beijing, 34% ang ipapataw nitong taripa sa lahat ng US goods. Nagpataw rin ito ng harang sa export ng ilang rare earth materials.
Ayon sa Finance Ministry ng China, ang karagdagang taripa nito sa US ay ipapatupad sa Agis ng Abril. Sinasabing ang aksyon na ito ng China ay lalong nagpapalalim ng umiinit na trade war. Noong Miyerkules, inanunsyo kasi ni Pangulong Donald Trump na papatawan nito ang China ng 34% taripa, dagdag sa 20% ipinataw dito ngayong taon. Dahil dyan, tinamaan na naman ang kalakalan ng agrikultura. Agad na sinuspindi ng Chinese Customs ang imports ng sorghums mula sa grain exporter C&D USA Incorporated. Hinarangan din nito ang imports ng poultry or bone meal o fertilizer mula sa 3 US firms. Nag-anunsyo rin ang Beijing ng pagkontrol sa exports ng medium at heavy rare earths simula noong Biyernes. Nagdagdag rin ito ng 16 na US entities sa export control list nito.
Inilagay rin ng China ang 11 firms sa unreliable entity list na pinapayagan ang Beijing na aksyonan ang foreign entities. Kasama rito ang firms kaugnay ng pagbebenta ng armas sa Taiwan na ayon sa China ay teritoryo nito. NJ de Guzman, Washington DC para sa mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Handang Handang magpatupad ang European Union o EU ng countermeasures matapos ang pagpataw ng mataas na taripa si US President Donald Trump.
President Trump's announcement of universal tariffs on the whole world, including the European Union, is a major blow to the world economy. I deeply regret this choice. Let's be clear-eyed about the immense consequences. The global economy will massively suffer. Uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism. The tariffs will also hurt consumers around the world. It will be felt immediately. Millions of citizens will face higher grocery bills. Medication will cost more, as well as transportation. Inflation will go up. And this is hurting in particular the most vulnerable citizens.
Diba? Sinabi ni European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen na ito ang naging kasunduan nila ng ilang mga lider ng Europa. Sa kanyang pakikipag-usap kay United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer na dapat ay ituloy nila ang pakikipag-usap sa US ukol sa nasabing taripa. Giit ni von der Leyen na ang pangunahing maapektuhan ay hindi mga korporasyon kundi ang pangkaraniwang mga mamamayan. Sinang-ayunan naman ng EU President ang naturang pahayag ni Trump na pinagsasamantalahan ng ibang bansa ang kaluwagan ng dating tariff policy at trade loopholes ng naunang polisiya ng Estados Unidos. Ngunit sinabi nito na mas maganda na idinaan muna ito sa dialogo at mas malalim na pagsusuri ang tariff rollout.
I agree with President Trump that others are taking unfair advantage of the current rules. And I'm ready to support any efforts to make the global trading system fit for the realities of the global economy. But I also want to be clear. Reaching for tariffs as your first and last tool will not fix it. We have always been ready to negotiate with the United States to remove the remaining barriers to transatlantic trade. At the same time, we are prepared to respond. We are already finalizing the first package of countermeasures in response to tariffs on steel, and we're now preparing for further countermeasures to protect our interests and our businesses if negotiations fail.
Magugunit ang maraming bansa ang gumamit rin at nagpataw ng mataas na taripa sa mga produkto na galing Estados Unidos. Bagamat may ibang bansa rin na naging limitado ang pagtaas ng kanilang taripa at iba naman na nagsabi hindi sila aalma sa naturang reciprocal tariffs, ay nangangamba naman ang karamihan sa magiging epekto nito sa pangkalahatang merkado. Sa kanyang pagtatapos ay nanindigan naman si von der Leyen na kapag isang parte ng EU ang pinuntirya ng kung sino man ay nangangahulugang kinakalaban nito ang buong European Union.
I know that many of you feel let down by our oldest ally. Yes, we must brace for the impact that this will inevitably have. Europe has everything it needs to make it through the storm. We are in this together. If you take on one of us, you take on all of us. So we will stand together and stand up for each other. Our unity is our strength.
Inanunsyo naman ng France at Algeria ang pagbuhay ng pag-uusap ng kanilang diplomatic relations upang maibalik ang tiwala at masolusyonan ang nagbabagong geopolitical dynamics sa Africa. Nangyari ang paghihiwalay ng dalawang bansa noong taong 1962 matapos ang kasaysayan ng colonial oppression, giyera, migrasyon at national identity na nagresulta sa pag-atras ng ambassadors at pagsuspinde ng bilateral cooperation ng mga bansa. Sa ngayon, determinado ang magkabilang panig na mabuo muli ang kanilang partnership na sumisentro sa respeto. Nais din nilang magsagawa ng strategic dialogue ukol sa Sahel dahil sa pagbunga ng jihadist violence and political instability kasunod ng malaking military coup. Bukod sa usaping pangseguridad at migrasyon, ipagpapatibay ang mga pangunahing sektor ng enerhiya, edukasyon at economic development sa kabila ng paghihirap ng nakaraan upang maisayos ang mga isinasagawang bilateral relations.
Binago ng Israeli military ang kanilang pahayag ukol sa pagpatay sa mga aid workers sa Gaza. Na-recover ng Palestinian Civil Defense at United Nations ang bangkay ng 15 emergency at aid workers sa Rafah, Southern Gaza. Ayon sa UN, pinatay sila ng Israeli forces habang tumutulong sa mga sibilyan sa gitna ng kaguluhan. Noong una, sinabi ng militar ng Israel na nagpaputok sila sa mga sasakyang walang marka at ilaw dahil pinanghinalaan nilang may sakay na mga militante ang mga ito. Pero pinabulaanan nito ng video mula sa cellphone ng isa sa mga biktima at nang nakaligtas na paramedic kung saan malinaw na may marka ang mga ambulansya, fire truck at sasakyang may UN logo. Inamin ng isang opisyal ng Israel na maaaring mali ang unang ulat ng kanilang sangay militar at kasalukuyang iniimbestigahan pa ang insidente. Gayunman, iginiit pa rin nilang may militante umano sa mga napatay kahit walang inilabas na ebidensya. Itinanggi rin ng Israel ang paratang na binaril sa malapitan ng mga biktima o tinangkang itago ang krimen. Ayon sa kanila, tinabunan lamang ng buhangin ng mga bangkay para hindi mapansin ng mga hayop at agad nila itong ipinaalam sa UN. Pero ayon sa UN, hindi sila agad pinayagang makapasok sa lugar at nang makapasok na sila ay natagpuan nila ang mga bangkay na nakalibing kasama mga durog na sasakyang may malinaw na humanitarian markings. Ayon sa mga ulat, ilang emergency teams ang pinaputukan habang hinahanap ang kanilang mga nawawalang kasamahan. Hanggang ngayon, isa pang paramedic ang hindi pa rin natatagpuan. Nananawagan ngayon ng UN at Palestinian Red Crescent ng isang independent investigation.
Accountability should never require video evidence. It should not take a global outrage for the truth to be acknowledged. The truth was always there. The Palestinian Red Crescent medics were wearing their Red Crescent emblem. They were wearing their uniforms and they were driving ambulances that were clearly marked and all emergency lights were on. Now, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society calls for an independent international investigation. We need justice for the victims, and we need to ensure that all of those who are responsible are held to account. Without this, the crimes will continue to happen. Without this, the systematic targeting for humanitarians, aid workers, and medics will continue to happen.
Sinabi ni Presidential Communications Officer Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro na dadalo na ang ilang opisyal ng Executive Department sa susunod na pagdinig ng Senado sa pag-aresto pa rin kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte.
According po sa office po ni ES, as we speak, hindi pa po ako nabibigyan ng anumang detail kung nakatanggap na po sila ng invitation. Pero so dapat sa invitation nakalagay po sana kung sino yung mga tao na iimbitahan. Pero nagbigay na po ng listahan ang Office of the Executive Secretary yung maaaring dumalo po sa nasabing hearing. Kung nagkausap man po sila ni Senate President Chis Escudero, binigyan din po natin ng pagrespeto ang kanyang hiling. Kaya, provided of course, ito hindi naman din tatalakay sa executive privilege na mga issues.
Naniniwala si Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile na matagal nang naging target ng International Criminal Court si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte bago pa man siya naging punong ehekutibo ng Pilipinas. Sa kanyang Facebook post ay sinabi ni Enrile na nag-aalinlangan siya sa pagbabalik ng dating leader sa bansa. Ito anya ay dahil sa librong nabasa niya na naka-copyright noong taong 2024 sa Estados Unidos. Sa isang pahina ng librong ito ay nakasulat ang pangalan ng dating Pangulo, and I quote, "Of course, most assaults on democracy are more subtle. The careers of strongmen like Vladimir Putin, Viktor Orban, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Rodrigo Duterte, Jair Bolsonaro, and Benjamin Netanyahu demonstrate how a leader who uses democracy to rise to power can then use his power to undermine democracy." Samantala, wala pang pahayag o anumang komento ang partido ng dating Pangulong Duterte ukol sa nasabing issue. Samantala, Samantala, inakusahan ng China ang Pilipinas na gawa-gawa lamang ang espionage cases nito laban sa Beijing. Sinabi ni Chinese spokesperson Lin Jian na inimbento raw ng Pilipinas ang mga walang batayang paratang laban sa China.
关于菲律宾籍在华人员从事间谍活动，中方的有关部门已经公布了具体的情况。中国司法机关和有关部门依据事实，严格依法办案，也将保障有关人员的合法权益。
Sinabi naman ni Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba na patuloy na makikipag-ugnayan ang kanyang gobyerno kay US President Donald Trump upang pungbabaan ang mga ipinataw na taripa nito sa Japan. Subalit anya, hindi ito mangyayari overnight. Ipaliliwanag anya ng kanilang pamahalaan kay Trump na walang ginawang unfair ang Japan sa Estados Unidos. Hindi rin anya siya bumisita sa US upang makipagpulong kay Trump sa lalong madaling panahon. Nakatakda si Trump ng 25% o nagtakda ito ng 25% sa auto imports ng Japan. Bukod dito ay may reciprocal 24% tariff din ng US sa iba pang produkto ng Tokyo. Nag-issue at inilagay ng Iran na military nito sa high alert. Nagbabala rin ang Iran sa mga bansang Iraq, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Turkiye at Bahrain na anumang suporta nito sa pag-atake ng Estados Unidos ay ikinukonsidera ng Tehran na act of hostility. Kasama sa sinasabing act of hostility ay ang pagpapahintulot ng mga nasabing bansa sa Estados Unidos na gamitin ang kanilang airspace o teritoryo upang atakihin ang Iran.
Nakatakdang magpulong ng personal si US President Donald Trump at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Si Netanyahu ang unang world leader na bibisita sa White House matapos na ipinatupad ni Trump ang mataas na taripa sa mga bansa. Git ni Netanyahu nais lamang niyang bigyang halaga ang personal na koneksyon nila ni Trump. Ilan sa mga maaaring talakayin ng dalawang lider ay ang pagpapatupad ng ceasefire sa Gaza. Magugunitang noong Pebrero nang magkita na ang dalawa kung saan ilan sa mga natalakay nila ay ang hakbang para tuluyang ipatupad ang ceasefire. Noong Sabado mula Estados Unidos hanggang Europa, sabay-sabay na umalma ang mga hindi sang-ayon sa pamamalakad ni US President Donald Trump at ang kaalyado nitong si Elon Musk. Ang Hands of Protest ay inorganisa upang maging pinakamalaking isang araw ng protesta laban sa Trump administration. Narito ang balita ni NET25 correspondent Rosel Feria.
Magkakawangis ang hinaing ng mga nagprotesta noong Sabado laban sa takbo ng pamumuno ni Pangulong Donald Trump, kapwa dito sa US at maging sa Europa. Mula dito sa Washington DC hanggang New York at California, pati na sa Lisbon, Berlin, Central Germany, London at Paris, tanong ng mga demonstrador, nasan ang demokrasya? Sa Los Angeles, libo-libo ang sumali sa protesta. Makikitang hawak ng mga demonstrador ang kanilang mga karatula mula Pershing Square bago ito nagmarcha sa mga lansangan ng lungsod. Ang protestang ito sa LA ay isa lamang sa may 1,200 demonstrasyon sa buong mundo laban kay Pangulong Trump at ng tao nitong si Elon Musk dahil sa sunod-sunod na aksyon ng dalawa ukol sa pag-overhaul ng gobyerno at pagpapalawak ng kapangyarihan ng Pangulo.
I want more people to show up and get him out of office. He's terrible.
Samantala, sa kalapit lungsod na New York, dinumog ng mga demonstrador ang protesta. Hiling nila, demokrasya, hindi diktadurya. Hawak nila ang mga karatula na nagsasabing you're fired. Gayon din ang tulad ng mukha ni Musk na may mga katagang ikulong, hands off sa aming USA.
The guy is completely out of control.
Dito sa kabisera ng bansa, libo-libo rin ang nagpahayag ng kanilang pagkayamot sa kasalukuyang administrasyon. Kabilang sa mga sentimiento ng mga ito ay ang ukol sa kalayaan ng pamamahayag. Nagmarcha ang mga ito sa kabila ng makulimlim na panahon at may mga pag-ambon. Para sa mga may edad na sumali rin sa protesta, nasa peligro ang kanilang kinabukasan.
Watching my 403B evaporate in the last 2 days, and it's pretty hurtful to see minority history just being erased. It's pretty sickening.
Ganito rin ang imahe sa Atlanta, Georgia. Anila ang pag-almang ito ay demokrasya. Umugong rin ang protesta sa Dallas, Texas. Sa Denver, Colorado naman, nagtipon ang mga ito sa Kapitolyo bago nagmarcha sa mga kalye ng lungsod. Samantala, sa Europa, karamihan ng mga demonstrador ay mga Amerikano na naninirahan doon. Ang iba naman ay nagpakita ng kanilang suporta at pagsang-ayon sa mga Amerikano. Sa Paris, daan-daang demonstrador ang nakiisa sa pag-alma.
He's not thinking about people, he's thinking about his billionaire buddies.
Sa Central London, dose-dosena naman ang nagtipon para sumali sa hands-off protest. Ayon sa mga karatula, tutol ang mga ito sa pasismo. Sa Frankfurt at Berlin, Germany, daan-daan ang nagpakita ng pagkadismaya sa palakad ni Trump, kabilang na ang mga dagdag taripa na inanunsyo ng Pangulo kamakailan.
The guy is, he's poison. He's a liar, he's a thief, he's a con man. He should be in prison.
Mula nang maupong muli si Pangulong Trump sa pwesto, sa tulong ng bilyonaryong si Elon Musk, nasa 60,000 empleyado ng gobyerno na ang nasisante. Inihinto rin ng administrasyon ang bilyon-bilyong federal funding bilang aksyon sa pagkurba ng gastos ng pamahalaan. Sinasabing mas marami pa ang mawawala ng trabaho sa mga darating na buwan. Samantala, may umuugong ng mga banta ukol sa pagsasampa ng kaso laban sa mga aksyong ito ng gobyerno. Rosel Feria, Washington DC para sa Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, bata sa Brazil nakaligtas matapos makuryente.
China inilabas ang unang passenger drone.
At Alex Ayala, number 73 na sa world rankings. Iba pang detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International.
Mga maiinit na balita at rumaratsyad ang usapan ng bayan. Ihahatid namin sa 100%! 100% ang pagbabalita! 100% talakayan! Lunes hanggang Biyernes! Alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga! Live na live sa Radyo Agila 1062 Mega Manila! At sa NET25 100%!
Sa NET25, let's live together. Sa NET25.
Get ready, kids! The ultimate fun learning adventure is back! Homework is back to make your school subjects super exciting! Fun learning is coming!
Sama-sama tayong mag-aral. Sama-sama tayong masayang gumawa ng homework.
Don't miss homework! Only on NET25. Let's make learning fantastic!
Let's live together. Sa NET25.
Our friends are coming back. Art, Mel, BJ, and Joey. Did you miss them?
Hey kids! You're here! Finally! We've missed you!
Ate DJ is also back. Let's join together to study and learn. So make sure to watch out for Word Hop. Only here on NET25.
Nagbabalik ang mata ng Agila International at sa pagpapatuloy po ng ating mga balita ngayong gabi. Tumagilid na nga, sumabog pa. Yan po ang naging eksena sa isang road accident sa Brazil na kinasangkutan ng fuel truck at higit sa 20 sasakyan. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nangyaring insidente sa BR-101 Road sa Palhoca. Kinumpirma ng Military Fire Department na nasa 5 katao ang nasaktan sa nasabing pagsabog. 3 po sa mga biktima ay nagtamo ng sunog sa iba't ibang bahagi ng katawan habang ang 2 naman sa mga ito ay nagtamo ng mga galos. Nasa 36 na bumbero ang rumisponde sa site para apulahin ang apoy. Tumulong na rin ang military police, ang civil defense at 3 ambulansya para sumaklulos sa mga apektado ng road accident. Pansamantalang isinara ang kalsada ng Federal Highway Police para sa kaligtasan ng mga motorista.
Aksidente pa rin sa kalsada, sumalpok ang isang truck sa Guangzhou, Jiangxi, China matapos kumalas ang cab nito na sinasakyan ng driver. Sa poll sa CCTV ang ilang sandali bago kumalas ang cab ng driver mula sa truck. Mapapansin na nang mangyari ang trahedya ay dumiretso ang sasakyan hanggang sa tumama ito sa puno. Nakaligtas naman ang nagmamaneho ng truck pero nagtamo ito ng ilang galos sa katawan. Agad na dinala ang truck driver sa pinakamalapit na ospital para sa medikal na atensyon. Tinukoy ng traffic police na kasalanan ng driver na hindi ito nakasunod sa pre-tip inspection na naging sanhi ng pagkalas ng cab blocking mechanism. Sa huli, naako ng driver ang lahat ng responsibilidad sa road crash.
Samantala, natigil naman po ang isang masayang family dinner ng isang pamilya. Kaya nga family dinner sa Brazil matapos makuryente ang isang bata. Mula sa nakalap na CCTV footage, habang busy ang pamilya sa kanilang hapunan, ay naglalaro ang isang batang babae sa may veranda ng kanilang tirahan. Habang hawak ang isang cable, ay tinapon ito ng bata sa labas ng veranda. Subalit, ayan na po, sumabit nga ito sa kable ng kuryente. Dito na nangisay ang bata at tumumba pa sa sahig. Buti na lamang ay napansin kaagad ito ng kanyang mga magulang at kaagad na din nila papalayo sa electric hazard. Nangyari ang insidente sa ikalawang palapag ng bahay ng pamilya sa siyudad ng Cameta sa Para, Brazil. Ang biktima ay nakilala bilang si Nicole Gabriela de Sousa, 7 anyos na bata. Nagtamo lamang siya ng minor injuries, buti lamang at ligtas na sa anumang peligro. Batay po sa salaysay ni Nicole, nakaramdam siya ng panghihina sa kanyang buong katawan at wala na siyang maalala na iba pa mga detalye matapos itong makuryente.
Sumabit sa bubong ng Stadium de Toulouse sa France ang isang paratrooper na may dalang bola na gagamitin sa European Rugby Champions Cup. Sa kumakalat ng mga viral video sa social media, makikita ang isang paratrooper na bumababa mula sa himpapawid at dumiretso sa bubungan ng stadium. Dito na na-stuck ang parachute ng paratrooper at tuluyang hindi na makababa. Naglagay naman ng inflatable object sa pwesto ang mga rescuers bilang safety net sakaling mahulog ang paratrooper. 2 bumbero naman ang sumaklolo sa paratrooper gamit ang long ladder ng kanilang fire truck. Standing ovation naman ang nagpalakpakan ng mga tao matapos ligtas na nai-rescue ng mga bombero ang paratrooper. Kinilala siya bilang si Yannick Trulet. Umabot ng 25 minutong nakalambitin sa canopy ang parachute ni Trulet bago ito mailigtas ng mga bombero. Na-delay ng 40 minuto ang laban sa pagitan ng Toulouse at ang mga English team na sali dahil sa nasabing insidente.
Umabot na po sa milyong-milyong dolyar ang global ticket sales ng Minecraft movie sa opening weekend dito. Nagkamit ng box office record ang pelikulang Minecraft movie matapos itong makakuha ng tumataginting na $301 million global ticket sales mula Biyernes hanggang Linggo. Sa unang araw nito sa mga sinihan, kumita ang movie na $144 million sa takilya ng US at maging sa Canada. Iniestimang nasa $3.42 billion ang total revenue ng Minecraft franchise. Kabilang narito ang merchandise sales at maging mga box office. Bagamat nauna na ang pinapahayag ng mga eksperto na maliit lamang ang initial sales projection ng pelikula at hindi naasang papatok sa madlang people. Ang video game adaptation na ito ng Warner Brothers Pictures at Legendary Entertainment ay tinaguri ang biggest opening day figure para sa taong 2025.
Bumagsak ang mga pangunahing stock indices sa Asia ngayong Lunes matapos na hindi bawiin ni US President Donald Trump ang ipinataw na reciprocal tariffs nito sa maraming bansa sa Asia. Sa unang pagkakataon mula noong October 2023, bumaba ng hanggang 8.8% ang Nikkei ng Japan. Nagsara ito sa 7.8% ngayong araw. Lahat ng 225 component stocks ng index nito ay nagsara sa kulay pula, isang pagpapahiwatig ng pagbaba ng mga halaga nito. Sa Hong Kong, ang Hang Seng Index ay bumagsak ng 13.2%. Pinakamalaking pagbaba sa isang araw mula noong taong 1997. Bumulusok naman ang stocks ng Taiwan sa 9.7%, samantalang ang Shanghai Composite Index ng China ay nagsara sa 7.34%. Habang ang Kospi ng South Korea ay pumalo sa 5.57% na sinasabing biggest daily percentage fall mula pa noong August 5, 2024 at pinakamababang level din mula noong November 1, 2023. Pinalipad ng Chinese tech firm na Hanggang Intelligent ang kanilang pinakaunang passenger drone sa papawirin ng Xizang Autonomous Region. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, inilunsad ito ng Chinese firm kasabay ng 22nd ng Blossom Tourism and Cultural Event. Ang passenger drone na ito ay kilala sa tawag na Peach Blossom eVTOL. Bilang bahagi ng test flight ay sinubukan itong paliparin sa taas na 3,000 meters. Naging matagumpay naman ang maiden flight ng Peach Blossom na siyang ikinatuwa ng Hanggang Intelligent. Layo ng paglunsad ng ganitong uri ng passenger drone ay palakasin pa ang low-altitude tourism project sa China. Nagsimula na ang ganitong industriya sa mga syudad ng Hefei at Hangzhou. Sa ngayon, nakapagsagawa ng kumpanya ng 65,000 safe flights sa loob ng 19 na bansa. Umaasa rin ng Chinese firm na lalago pa ang ganitong proyekto para sa pagpapalakas ng turismo sa China.
Sa balitang sports, isang legendary baseball card ng Los Angeles Dodgers superstar na si Shohei Ohtani ibinenta sa auction sa halagang $1.07 million. Inihayag ang one-of-a-kind the Topps Dynasty Black Card na mayroong gold ink autograph ni Ohtani sa heritage auctions nang makamit nito ang 50 home runs at 50 base steals. Kasama po rito ang suot niyang laro laban sa Miami Marlins na Major League Baseball logo patch mula sa kanyang pantalon. Ito ang kaunahon ng Ohtani card na ibinenta ng 7 figures kasunod ng 2018 Bowman Chrome Rookie Autographs Orange Refractor set na may halagang mahigit $530,000.
Sa kanyang pagbabalik, magiting na nagtagumpay si Max Verstappen para sa kanyang pang-apat na consecutive win sa Suzuka Circuit ng Japanese Grand Prix. Ito rin ang kanyang unang tagumpay para sa 2025 season ng Formula 1. Makalipas ng paghihirap sa dalawang karera at sa naiwasang insidente sa pit exit, nakabawi ang world champion at nalampasan ang pressure ng McLaren Papaya Boys. Sa kabila ng paggamit ni Yuki Tsunoda ng P12 para sa kanyang home race, pinuri pa rin siya ng kanyang mga tagahanga nang iparangal siya na driver of the day o parangalan na driver of the day. Kasabay nitong matagumpay na podium finish nila ni Lando Norris at Oscar Piastri na nagkamit ng P2 at P3 para sa McLaren. Dahil sa kanilang defensive effort sa karera, nagtapos sila ng may kabuuan na 33 points na nagpapanatili sa kanilang posisyon para sa constructors standings.
Isang panibagong achievement ang naitala ni Filipino tennis ace player na si Alex Agila matapos umangat ang kanyang ranking sa number 73 na Women's Tennis Association o WTA. Ang malaking pag-angat po na ito ni Agila ng 2 pwesto ay dahil sa kanyang impressive performance sa Miami Open noong nakaraang buwan, kung saan umabot siya ng semifinals ng WTA 1000 event. Natalo niya ang Grand Slam champion sa sina Jelena Ostapenko, Madison Keys at Iga Swiatek. Rabiguman siya kay Jessica Pegula sa semifinals ay maraming humanga sa kanyang round-by-round progression.
Kinumpirma ng Lionsgate ang mga haka-haka patungkol sa pagbabalik ni John Wick. Si Carl kausapin para sa balita.
Inanunsyo ang pagpapatuloy sa kwento ng retired hitman na pangungunahan pa rin ni Keanu Reeves sa pangasiwa ni Chad Stahelski. Matapos ng ilang taon na paghihintay, inihayag ito ng Lionsgate Motion Picture Group Chair Adam Fogelson sa CinemaCon, ang simula ng pag-develop kasama ni Basil Ivanik at Erica Lee ng Thunder Road bilang producers. Patuloy ang pagdami ng mga kwento sa paglawak ng John Wick franchise na may kabuuan na $1 billion worldwide. Kasama rito ang animated prequel film tungkol sa blind swordsman na si Kane na pangungunahan ni Donnie Yen na magsisilbing direktor at main star ng pelikula. Sinasabi na ang daloy ng kwento ay ang pagbabalik sa pinagmula ni John Wick kung saan nais niyang makawala mula sa obligasyon ng high table. Daragdag sa franchise ang isa pang spin-off film na Ballerina na pangungunahan naman ni Ana de Armas bilang si Eve Macaro na magbubukas sa mga sinihan sa June 6. Dadaloy ang kwento sa kanyang pagsasanay na maging isang ganap na assassin na ipinagtitibay ang kanyang kahusayan at kaalaman habang may iba't ibang kinakalabang adversaries. Carl kausapin para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Ipinasilip na po sa Warner Brothers CinemaCon ang trailer ng inaabangang reboot ng Superman ni James Gunn. Kabilang sa mga gaganap na aktor sina David Corenswet bilang a Man of Steel, Rachel Brosnahan bilang si Lois Lane at si Nicola Hoult bilang si Lex Luthor. Ipinakita rin ang not so good boy na si Krypto na isang superpowered dog na bida at ang robotic custodian na ito na si Kellex. Ipalalabas ito sa iba't ibang sinihan sa summer ng July 2025.
Susunod, North Korea muling nagsagawa ng International Marathon.
Bata nag-report sa 911 dahil sa ice cream.
Abangan naman ang mga iba pang istorya pagdating ni Alma Angeles at ng Mata ng Agila World News. Detalye pa rin ang mga balitang yan sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Sunday on Cine Throwback. In a future dystopian world where possibilities are limitless, one man ponders the question of a lifetime. The Zero Theorem.
At present, we feel no joy.
Why would you want to prove that all is for nothing?
Watch on Cine Throwback at NET25. This Sunday, 12 noon, here on NET25.
Let's net together. So NET25.
Each individual has their own goal. Every shot we make takes us to a whole new distance. And where the grass is green, something will definitely begin. This is the third NET25 Golf Cup, April 14, 2025 at the Alabang Country Club. For inquiries, you may contact 0951-597-5645, 0917-322-8369.
Nagsagawa ng marathon ang Pyongyang bilang bahagi ng pagdiriwang ng kapanganakan ni Kim Il-sung. Huling isinagawa ang marathon noong 2019 bago isinara ng bansa mga borders nito dahil sa COVID-19 pandemic. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nilahukan ang marathon ng humigit kumulang 200 foreign runners. Tumakbo ang mga ito sa mga kilalang tanawin sa Pyongyang katulad ng Kim Il-sung Stadium, Arch of Triumph at Mirai Future Scientists Street. Napuno naman ang stadium ng mga manonood na may dalang gintong banderitas at sumusuporta sa mga kalahok. Ayon kay Pak Kung-dong, isang North Korean na sumali sa marathon, nakatulong sa kanyang pagtakbo ang mainit na suporta ng kanyang mga kababayan. Wala pang inilalabas na opisyal na resulta ng karera. Nagsimulang luwagan ang bansa ang COVID restrictions noong kalagitnaan ng 2023 at bagaman pinayagan na noong Pebrero ang ilang turista sa lungsod ng Rason, agad din itong itinigil makalipas ang ilang linggo.
Isang 4-year-old na bata naman po mula sa Wisconsin ang tumawag sa 911 para isumbong ang kanyang nanay dahil sa sama ng loob matapos kainin nito ang kanyang ice cream.
Hello? This is Racine County 911. What's the address of your emergency?
My mom is in bed. This little one got the phone, and he's 4.
Okay.
And we're trying to catch him because he said he was going to call 911. No, I just called the bully, and I just told her to come and get my mommy.
I ate his ice cream, so that's probably why he's calling 911. Okay. So you don't need police, fire, or rescue?
No.
No? Okay.
Paulit-ulit niyang sinabi sa pulis na kunin ang kanyang ina, subalit kaagad na kinuha ng kanyang nanay ang telepono at inamin naman ito sa operator na nagalit ang kanyang anak dahil sa ice cream theft. Bilang bahagi ng protocol, bumisita po ang mga pulis sa kanilang bahay upang tiyakin na walang totoong emergency. Hindi na tinagang bata at iginiit na hulihin ang kanyang nanay. Tinanong siya ng mga pulis kung mas gusto niya ang ice cream kaysa ipakulong ang kanyang nanay at napilitan siyang amining mas gusto niya ang ice cream. 2 araw matapos ang insidente ay bumalik ang mga pulis na may 2 surprise, 2 scoops ng ice cream na may blue sprinkles pa na nagbigay ng matamis sa pagtatapos sa nakatutuwang pangyayari.
Kasi naman summer na. Speaking of summer, sa April 27 na po ang pinakaabangan natin ng 2025 Summer Blast. Kaya ano pa ang hinihintay ninyo? Ilatag na't iplano ang inyong summer activities at getaway at isama ang buong pamilya at barkada sa Summer Blast 2025. Pasasalamat namin ito po sa inyo for making us the #1 family entertainment channel sa bansa at selebrasyon ng ating ika-25th anniversary. Manatiling nakatutok po sa official social media accounts ng Philippine Arena at NET25 para sa iba pang updates at official list of OPM artists na magpe-perform sa one-night concert sa Philippine Arena para sa Summer Blast 2025.
At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita sa mang dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi po. Ako po muli si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Enrique, good evening everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines.
Economic and environmental threats are dominating headlines tonight. First, President Trump's tariffs are hammering global markets, sparking recession fears and sending stocks into a tailspin.
In the market, at some point you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put. Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I think it's I don't want anything to go down. But sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
Then we'll turn to the devastating storms across the South and Midwest where tornadoes and historic flooding are wreaking havoc.
Once again, we're going through a major natural disaster with significant flooding all over the state.
And the news starts now. From the heart of the Midwest to the deep South, a relentless storm system is unleashing chaos. And tonight we'll show you a barrage of tornadoes and historic flooding, all fueled by a powerful atmospheric river. Take a look.
From Arkansas to Illinois, tornadoes ripped through communities before Wednesday and early Thursday, leaving a trail of destruction. Homes are flattened, roofs torn off, and churches and warehouses reduced to rubble. The National Weather Service confirms at least 10 tornadoes across Missouri, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, and Arkansas. The widespread devastation has triggered emergency declarations in multiple states, including Kentucky and Tennessee, with officials bracing for even worse conditions.
Once again, we're going through a major natural disaster with significant flooding all over the state. We have hundreds of roads that are closed for good reason. Do not drive through water. That's how we end up losing people. The rivers haven't crested in many areas of the state, and so there are a day, if not several days left on this event. So please, everybody be careful. If the water's still rising and you need to move to high ground, please do it. If you are out traveling and you come upon a road that has water over it, do not drive through it. We've tragically lost 2 individuals, 2 Kentuckians, 2 children of God already, and we don't want to lose any more.
Record flooding, mudslides, and rock slides have closed hundreds of roads across Kentucky alone, and the impact isn't limited to roads. Nearly 150,000 homes and businesses still without power, with Michigan and Indiana taking the brunt of the outages. Major airports also experiencing significant delays and cancellations. But the biggest threat now is the unprecedented flooding. The National Weather Service is warning of catastrophic rainfall across the lower Ohio Valley, the Mid-South, and the Ozarks, with some areas expecting even 15 inches of rain. Key infrastructure is also under siege. At least 22 counties report damage from tornadoes, high winds, hail, and rising floodwaters. Federal and local emergency crews are on the ground deploying rescue teams, clearing debris, and delivering vital supplies. But for many communities already reeling from previous severe weather events, this new wave of destruction is a devastating blow. With floodwaters continuing to rise, officials are warning this could become one of the most significant flooding events in recent history. A wave of economic warnings is sweeping Wall Street as major financial institutions drastically revise their forecasts in the wake of new U.S. tariffs. The fear, a looming recession. Take a look. JP Morgan has significantly increased its prediction of a global recession, now placing the odds at a sobering 60%. Disruptive U.S. policies have been recognized as the biggest risk to the global outlook all year. They warn that the impact of these tariffs will be amplified by retaliatory measures, a drop in U.S. business confidence, and disruptions to global supply chains. Other major players are echoing this concern. S&P Global has raised its subjective probability of a U.S. recession to between 30 and 35%, while Goldman Sachs now sees a 35% chance. Economic fundamentals were not as strong as in the previous years. Barclays, Bank of America, Deutsche Bank, RBC Capital Markets, and UBS are also sounding alarms, with some predicting outright economic contraction. The impact is already being felt on the stock market. The S&P 500 has plummeted since January, wiping out gains from the previous year.
We have a market that is throwing a temper tantrum. Frankly, rightfully so, when you think about what the street was expecting in terms of a more tempered approach and a tempered narrative to tariffs and trade in general, and then just what we've seen and how not just how cavalier the numbers seem, but also how cavalier the messaging is. So we have a market that is absolutely selling off on that due to uncertainty, due to distaste for the proposed policy.
Brokerages are slashing year-end targets for the market, citing the increased recession risk. However, some analysts believe the economic slowdown could force the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates even further. Goldman Sachs, for example, now predicts 3 rate cuts by the end of the year, up from their previous estimate of 2. Others are also revising their rate cut forecasts upwards.
Well, the Fed continues to tell us that they're data dependent, they're not in a hurry. That works fine when you have a stable economy. We've got some uncertainty right now. Nobody, I think, will be surprised if the first quarter ends with a very low GDP number or even a possibly negative quarterly GDP because of this idea of uncertainty and spending just being paused ahead of it. While the Fed pauses, I can't think of any time in history where we've really seen a stable, resilient economy with a steady, slow decline in rates. And what I mean by that is 2 cuts this year, 3 cuts this year. I don't think that's what you see. If we have continued strength in the economy, there are going to be intermittent cuts in rates, but they're not going to be regular. But what's going to bring rates down is going to be if this economy does turn, and then the Fed acts quickly. That's why rates come down. Rates come down, they come down in a fast way, either immediately or over a series of quick rate cuts when the economy needs support.
The uncertainty surrounding these tariffs is creating a volatile economic landscape, and the financial world is bracing for potential fallout. Top American officials say dozens of nations have reached out to the White House to begin trade talks since U.S. President Donald Trump rolled out sweeping new tariffs. Now, on Sunday, they defended levies that have wiped out nearly $6 trillion in value from U.S. stocks last week and downplayed economic fallout. Thomas I. Likeness has the story.
U.S. customs agents have their hands out to collect Trump's unilateral 10% tariff on all imports from many countries. That went into effect on Saturday. The National Economic Council's Kevin Hassett says that's prompted dozens of nations to call the White House, asking to work out new trade deals.
I got a report from the USTR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff.
But Hassett and other White House officials aren't naming any of the countries seeking an audience with the president. Hassett also minimizes the effect tariffs will have on consumers' wallets.
Well, there might be some increase in prices, but the fact is that if there were going to be a heavy burden on the U.S. consumer, then this trade deficit that for 30 years we've seen, really since China entered the WTO, would be something that would have gone down. It would have gone down over time.
But he does admit tariffs are a tax, and that's something the Trump administration has downplayed.
A tariff is a form of tax. It's a way that you collect revenue when you import products, yes.
Meanwhile, on his Truth Social site, Trump on the weekend implored people to hang in there. He says it won't be easy, adding that his policies are an economic revolution. Trump's sidekick Elon Musk weighed in, saying he hopes the U.S. and Europe can establish what he calls a very close partnership.
I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America.
Musk adds that he also hopes people can freely move between Europe and North America to work if they wish. But at this point, it doesn't seem that wish list will come to pass. EU countries are getting set to present a united front in the coming days against the Trump tariffs. That will see the 27-nation bloc joining Canada and China by imposing retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. Back in the United States, the impact of the tariffs at the consumer level will begin to be seen in the coming weeks. Rising prices and job losses will likely spur more outcry from people who are already upset with unpopular government cuts and the chaos in Washington. Joseph Williams, former senior editor of U.S. News and World Report, says the outlook is dismal.
We will be looking at 5% or more unemployment in the United States. We'll be looking at probably a mild recession heading into a deeper recession.
Americans now have to deal with the prospect that the president they believed would quickly lead them to prosperity may be failing in that mission early in his term. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
Global markets are reeling today as President Trump's tariff plans to continue to send shockwaves through Asia. Now, major stock indices plummeted, with some experiencing their largest single-day declines in decades, and investors are increasingly concerned about a potential global recession fueled by these trade tensions. Take a look.
Japan's Nikkei index saw a dramatic drop, falling nearly 8%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index experienced its biggest one-day decline since 1997, plumping over 13%. Taiwan stocks also took a significant hit, falling by nearly 10%, a record one-day percentage drop. South Korea's Kospi recorded its largest daily fall since August of last year, and China's Shanghai Composite also closed sharply lower. In Southeast Asia, ASEAN trade ministers are preparing to discuss the impact of these tariffs. Malaysia's trade and industry minister Zafrul Abdulaziz spoke to reporters outlining ASEAN's current position.
As from my understanding, there's no retaliatory tariff being imposed by countries of our members of ASEAN. And as I said, we have a 10th of April, we have a discussion. We'll discuss with them, with my colleagues on the next step forward. I think two wrongs don't make a right. And it's important that we remain calm because anything that will result in trade war is not for the benefit of the global economy.
As ASEAN ministers prepare to meet, the global financial community remains on edge, watching closely to see how these tariff disputes will unfold.
U.S. stocks plunged for 2 consecutive days as investors brace for escalating trade tensions sparked by President Trump's reciprocal tariffs he announced on Wednesday. Take a look.
The Trump administration began imposing reciprocal tariffs on all its trade partners. This move has sparked panic among investors. All 3 major U.S. stock indices fell into sharp declines on Thursday, with European stock markets also seeing significant losses. This while the U.S. dollar index dropped substantially. As of the close on Thursday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged to its largest single-day decline since June 2020. The S&P 500 fell to its biggest single-day drop since June 2020. Meanwhile, the Nasdaq Composite fell to its largest single-day fall since March 2020. The sell-off was widespread. Key individual stocks also took a hit. Nike saw a steep 14% drop in its share price. Apple fell by 9%. Bank stocks were under heavy pressure, with Western Alliance Bank dropping nearly 16%. Citigroup lost about 12%, and Bank of America slipped 11%. This marks a stark contrast to the surge seen after the U.S. presidential election last November, when small-cap stocks were seen as beneficiaries of deregulation, tax cuts, and tariffs. UBS analysts warn of the potential long-term economic consequences of the tariffs. They suggest that if they persist, inflation could rise sharply. This severely impacting the macroeconomy and potentially leading to significant deterioration in not only U.S., but also global economic growth and inflation over the next year. Arlene Ocampo, Washington, D.C. for NET25 World News.
In the U.S., anti-Trump protesters took to the streets of major cities like Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and New York. Ralph Coronel reports.
Thousands of protesters gathered here in Washington, D.C. on Saturday to rally against President Donald Trump and his billionaire ally, Elon Musk. The duo have launched a rapid-fire effort to overhaul government and expand presidential authority. Demonstrators accused President Trump of a power grab and leading a disinformation campaign.
We object to everything that Donald Trump is doing, basically in terms of his power grab and all the damage he's doing to the economy and to democracy. That's why I'm saying the Trump slump is basically the stock market's crashing, the economy's going to crash, it's already crashing, and it's all about Trump. It's all his actions, his stupidity, his mistakes.
One of my major concerns is how much disinformation that they are perpetuating out in the public, that basic science and basic facts that our democracy depends on is being torn down. And when that happens, people get hurt. We've already seen that, whether it's measles outbreaks that should not be happening in this country, or climate change. I'm really concerned about it. We're going the wrong direction.
President Trump returned to office on January 20th with a stream of executive orders and other measures. Critics say these are aligned with the agenda outlined by Project 2025, a deeply conservative political initiative to reshape government and consolidate presidential authority. Demonstrators say they were promised other things, but those have not been fulfilled.
They had a plan when they campaigned. They had it in Project 2025, and they are enacting it. And what it's doing is taking a chainsaw to science and facts and the entire systems that we depend on.
Other demonstrator concerns include benefits of the elderly.
I think the thing that hurts me most personally is now that I'm pretty much retired, Social Security, whatever in the world they're trying to do. Well, I know they're trying to destroy it. Watching my 403B evaporate in the last 2 days.
Others say the biggest issue affecting them is due process.
Affecting me is pretty much everything, but due process is the biggest one. We've got people that are being put in jail, sent to other countries that haven't been before a judge. So therefore, we've got a lot of mistakes happening. And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, due process is the biggest. We need people to be rightfully detained, if so, then put before a judge and then found innocent or guilty.
Meanwhile, in New York, protesters filled the streets as they sang and chanted anti-Trump sentiments. You can hear the demonstrators chanting, "This is what democracy looks like," as they held signs that say, "Hands off schools." Cruelty to immigrants is un-American, and wake up, America. Thousands of anti-Trump and anti-Musk demonstrators also marched through downtown Los Angeles. As they marched, demonstrators carried signs reading, "Hands off our democracy," and "Don't trust Elon Musk," and chanted, "Hands off." Musk's Department of Government Efficiency team has eliminated over 200,000 jobs from the 2.3 million federal workforce. Hours before the protests were due to kick off here in the U.S., hundreds of anti-Trump Americans living in Europe gathered in Berlin, Frankfurt, Paris, and London to voice opposition to the president's sweeping makeover of U.S. foreign and domestic policies. Ralph Cornell, Washington, D.C., for NET25 World News.
Tariffs, foreign intervention, and even the role of Elon Musk are fueling widespread protests across Europe. Demonstrations in London, Frankfurt, Berlin, and Paris signal growing concern over the direction of U.S. leadership. Shannon Chloe Kia reports from London.
Yes, Salma. Good evening from London. In Trafalgar Square, a scene mirroring protests across Europe today, a few hundred people have gathered to voice their discontent with U.S. President Donald Trump and his advisor Elon Musk. This follows a turbulent week for global markets triggered by Trump's announcement of sweeping tariffs. And no matter where you're from, signs like Proud American Ashamed reflect the deep frustration felt by many, particularly among the American expatriate community. The chants echoing through the square aren't just about trade. Hands off Canada, hands off Greenland, and hands off Ukraine. They're a clear rejection of what protesters perceive as Trump's aggressive foreign policy. Speakers here are delivering impassioned critiques of the Trump administration, focusing on what they see as a threat to international stability. This London demonstration is part of a wider European movement. We've seen similar protests in Frankfurt, where Democrats abroad organized a hands-off rally demanding Trump's resignation. In Berlin, protesters gathered outside the Tesla showroom, targeting Elon Musk with slogans like "Shut up, Elon, no one voted for you," and even a dog with a sign mocking his government role. And in Paris, hundreds gathered at the Place de la République, waving banners with messages like "Resist tyrant" and "Save democracy." From Frankfurt's open Platz to the streets of Paris, the message is clear. There's widespread concern about the direction of the United States under this administration. Here in London, as in other European capitals, the protesters are determined to make their voices heard. They're sending a strong message not just to Washington, but to the world, that they will not remain silent.
The policies Trump is following are a threat to the world as we have come to know it and enjoy it as very privileged Westerners, and it continues to threaten people in other countries around the world.
Reporting from London, United Kingdom, this is Shannon Chloe Kia for NET25 World News. Back to you.
And indeed, across Europe, American citizens joined the widespread demonstrations against President Trump's policies from Lisbon to Frankfurt, Berlin, London, and Paris. Those living abroad made their voices heard. Let's now get to Percival Parlari in Washington for more on the global response to these protests. Percy.
In Lisbon, Portugal, demonstrators took to the streets of Lisbon on Saturday to protest against President Donald Trump and his advisor, Elon Musk. Organizers say the events are set to be the largest single-day protests against Trump.
So we're here. You're here.
Freedom is at stake in the United States and for the whole world with what Donald Trump is doing. And we need to stand up. We need to raise our voices. We need to be heard. We need to make sure that everybody knows that we will not accept this type of injustice.
Meanwhile, in Berlin, Germany, protesting in front of a Tesla showroom, demonstrators held placards calling on fellow Americans living in Germany to protest for an end to the chaos at home. And at Frankfurt's Opernplatz, members of the U.S. Foreign Democrats demand the resignation of the president. Their placard slogans read, "Restore democracy" and "Hands off our personal data."
The way he's destroying our democracy, I mean, dismounting the whole government and his politics, his everything. I'm sorry to say, I'm a New Yorker originally, and I know what Trump's about. That guy is, he's poison. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's a con man. He should be in prison.
We have to show solidarity with all the demonstrations in 1,000 cities today in the USA. We have to show that we are not in agreement with what is happening in the USA. People in Germany, people in Europe need to know that.
Dozens of mostly American anti-Trump protesters gathered in central London on Saturday. Protesters say President Trump's policies threatens the world.
Policies Trump is following are a threat to the world as we have come to know it and enjoy it as very privileged Westerners, and it continues to threaten people in other countries around the world. It's not a question of location, it's a question of principle.
And in France, hundreds of demonstrators, mainly Americans living in Paris, joined the worldwide call to show discontent at Trump's and billionaire ally Elon Musk's rapid-fire effort to overhaul government and expand presidential authority.
And I would say it's embarrassing, but it has an impact on everyone's lives throughout the world. And to stop that, I don't know how we're going to stop that, unless he has another whim to reverse it.
See, like his Liberation Day affected the stock market, which affects loads of different countries, the EU. I mean, all the countries except for maybe Russia and a few others didn't have tariffs, but everybody else, even penguins, were affected by the tariffs. So yeah, things nonsensical like that, where allies become enemies. I mean, in World War II, which was the real liberation, we were allies with the US. Are we allies with the US anymore? For the moment, we're not allied with his president. Let's see what happens next.
The hands-off protest is designed by opponents of President Trump to demonstrate their opposition to his administration's sweeping makeover of U.S. foreign and domestic policy through executive orders. Percival Parlade, Washington, D.C. for NET25 World News.
As global markets react to his administration's latest trade moves, President Trump addressed concerns about potential economic fallout. Take a look.
What's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world.
Is there pain in the market at some point? You're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put? Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I mean, I think it's I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something.
The measles outbreak in Texas has turned deadly again. State officials confirm a second child has died amid nearly 500 cases. Take a look.
A second child with measles has died in Texas in an outbreak of the childhood disease that has resulted in nearly 500 cases in Texas and has spread across 22 states. On Sunday, Texas health officials said the unvaccinated school-aged child, who had no underlying health conditions, had died in the hospital on Thursday from measles pulmonary failure. The outbreak began in late January in Gaines County, where the vaccination rate is about 82%. That's below the 95% considered protective for those who cannot be vaccinated. CDC officials said 97% of U.S. cases are unvaccinated or have an unknown vaccination status. In a post on X, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. identified the child as 8-year-old Daisy Hildebrand and said he visited Texas on Sunday to comfort the family. Kennedy is an anti-vaccine advocate who has declared that vaccination is a personal choice. He has previously recommended vitamin A as a measles treatment, along with good nutrition. While vitamin A has been shown in some studies in developing countries to lessen the severity of symptoms, it can lead to liver toxicity in high quantities. However, on Sunday, Kennedy said the best protection against measles was the vaccine, which is 97% effective after 2 shots. When asked about the new measles death, U.S. President Donald Trump said that if the outbreak progresses, his administration will, quote, have to take action very strongly.
And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
Thinking as a network, acting as one. A show about visionaries and their projects. Challenges that can be tackled together for a future worth living. Working for a more united world. Global Us.
And finally in our news, burning suitcases and a pointed slogan have turned a Barcelona wall into a canvas of protest. Now the artwork captures the growing anger over a tourism boom that many locals say is pricing them out of their own city. Lovely Apple Joyce Fabros reports from Barcelona.
A fiery message on the streets of Barcelona is sparking debate. A new graffiti artwork showing burning suitcases and the words, "Tourism is killing the city," is turning heads and highlighting growing frustration over the city's housing crisis. Created by local artist Block, the piece captures what many residents feel, that the booming tourism industry is driving up rent prices and squeezing locals out of the housing market.
It makes me sad and a little bit guilty for being here as a tourist and being part of that economy, you know.
This comes just weeks after Spain's courts blocked Barcelona's bold plan to phase out short-term holiday rentals by 2028. The city is set to cancel over 10,000 tourist rental licenses in an effort to make homes more affordable for long-term residents.
We have a crisis. All the apartments that are being rented out and all that, they become touristic apartments. And it's a problem. And when they don't, the rents are for millionaires.
Barcelona has long walked a tightrope, balancing the economic benefits of tourism with the needs of people who live there. Supporters of the rental ban call it a lifeline for locals. Critics say it unfairly favors hotels and won't fix deeper housing issues.
People that actually live here, the infrastructure, it's not as well done as for the people that are just visiting for the tourism. Also, people that live here are penalized by the tourists.
For the housing, I think that's a big problem because, of course, it's not just because of tourism itself, but it's really because of the big owners who take over everything and do what they want. But that's not the fault of tourism. If they don't allow touristic apartments, people will go to a hotel and that's it. No problem. I think that's how it should be.
Since 2020, the numbers of homes available for long-term rents has plunged nearly 60%, according to property site Idealista. Many landlords are switching to short-term lets or pulling their properties from the market entirely, citing rent caps and anti-eviction laws. And it's not just Barcelona. Other tourist hotspots like the Canary Islands are also moving to restrict holiday rentals. With a nationwide housing protest set for April 5, voices across Spain are calling for change. The message is clear. While tourism fuels the economy, leaders must find a better balance to protect the communities that call the cities home. Reporting from Barcelona, Spain, this is Lovely Apple Joyce Fabros for NET25 World News. Back to you, Alma.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
This program is supported by